Hello, friends and neighbors, and welcome to episode 10 of Ray and Benny Talk Sports. We're here at the secret recording studio in the state of Euphoria. And of course, we have producer Grimy watching the front door. And as always, we got the man so attractive that he gets hit on by golf balls when he's not even on the golf course. Benny, how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. I could still feel the pain from that golf ball when it, hit my back. Just trying to enjoy KP, man.
Just trying to sit on the picnic bench and enjoy your boys, but dang, You got one in the back.
Yeah, someone had it in for me that day.
Yeah, you went down like someone shot you. My gosh.
Dude, have you ever been hit by a golf ball? It does not feel good.
I'm not that beautiful, man. I'm not that beautiful. How was your weekend, man?
Well, there was a football game on Sunday, a pretty big one, and the Bombers won. So no matter what else happened that weekend, it was a pretty damn good weekend just from that. And a good week just from that.
Right, man. It is the West Final. I'm still excited. You could probably still hear my voice is hoarse. Yeah. But that's all you need to know about my time because, man, we have jam-packed podcast for you today. Joining us to celebrate episode 10 is Bomber legend and CFL Hall of Famer James Murphy. He'll be joining us, so stay tuned for that. He'll be live in the studio. We also have to catch up on a week of Jets action. NFL is getting heated going to the last third of the season. Of course, we got some hot dogs to give out. So, it's busy. Let's get started. Let's talk about CFL action and final Sunday. Man, whoever says the CFL is dead, they can go to heck. Check them ratings, man. Check them ratings. Dead leagues don't outdraw the NFL and the NHL. So get out of here with that talk about the CFL dead, man. It was a good weekend.
You're definitely going to get some good ratings or viewership anytime the Riders and the Bombers play each other, especially in a West Final. So, there wasn't much probably else going on in Saskatchewan anyways besides that game. So
1.3 million.
Watch, so.
1.3 million, man. They watch across the country. Yeah. And that first game, I remember watching the first half and I texted you. I'm like, what's up with Hamilton? Or I texted you, Hamilton, ? And you said, wake up. And they did, bro. They put in Dane Evans and he went almost perfect, literally. What do you think about the East Final and that comeback when they're down 12-0 at the half?
Yeah, it's interesting because Toronto, they were in charge in that first half. But they couldn't punch in any touchdowns. They settled for field goals inside the 20-yard line twice in that first quarter, then two more in the second quarter. It's just like, if they would have been able to punch maybe one of those in, maybe it's a different game. Two out of the four, it's probably over and Toronto ends up winning it. But like you said, Dane Evans came in and that second half was a totally different story. And the offense for the Hamilton Tiger Cats woke up. And the D did what they were doing basically even in the first half, holding Toronto just to field goals.
Yeah, and I'm going to give you a TSN turning point. Before the end of the half, there was a fumble. Toronto picked it up, lateral it. They're going down the sideline, and Dane Evans himself grabbed the ball from the defender and prevented any points from being scored. You saw a bit of life in Hamilton. Orlando Steinhauer was like, okay, I'm going to halftime. They came back out, and they were jacked. And they came back and they took that East Final from Toronto. That defensive line in Hamilton, they are something the Bombers will have to deal with. They can really put some pressure on. They are strong. But what about Toronto, man? They're not moving forward. Your favorite quarterback, BLT, was kind of ineffective. Do they got to move on from him? What are your thoughts on maybe Toronto moving on before we head to the West Final?
Yeah, like we said, we figured the difference would end up being at the QB position, and not, and it ended up being that way as Dane Evans, backup for Hamilton, came in and took over the game. MBT just couldn't get it done when they had the chance, and the rest of the team was pretty solid. They didn't get the running game going at all for Toronto. Like that was non-existent. So Thompson there had to throw a lot, but he couldn't complete those TDs when he needed to. So. I think, if they would have hung on to Arbuckle, maybe they would have had a different option to go to in the second half as well, like Hamilton did, right? Toronto went out and spent money this year on that D. Like, how many star names did they throw on that D? Their linebacker group was pretty damn good, but they just couldn't get it done. When it counted, and and I'm still gonna probably think the QB was their shortfall or downfall.
Yeah, they got to move on from him. They got to move on from 3 last names, because that's what that is. That dude has 3 last names, and that's easier to say than the whole name. So 3 last names has got to move on. He's might be a serviceable backup, but they might even have to risk it and try to bring in Mazzoli, and that's a whole offseason of business. Let's go on to the West Final. Our Winnipeg Blue Bombers in a tight one against Saskatchewan, 31,000 strong at IGF Field. You were there. I were there. Freezing.
Yeah. Oh, it was cold.
Did you have a good time at that game, bro? Give me your account from section 235.
You know what? What a game. The atmosphere in that stadium was amazing.
Yes.
I will say that first half was a bummer. And I had my doubts going into halftime, just watching turnover after turnover by the Bomber offense.
Yeah.
Dude, in normal conditions, that game is not even close. I think the Bombers run away with that thing. They marched downfield, no problem. Dembski ended up bobbling the ball, turns into an interception.
Yeah.
They get it back. They march back down again, no problem. And then Wolotarski fumbles on the one. And you're like, what is happening here? The football gods were angry at the Bombers for something.
Yeah.
And then Saskatchewan score after that. And you're thinking, okay, what's happening? Bombers came right back and scored, though. You saw them move the ball, and you're thinking, okay, they still got a chance, right? And as long as they can continue to do that, we're good there. And eventually they just took that game, and didn't give it back to Saskatchewan. So the Bombers D, a lot of the turnovers were at least in Saskatchewan's end, so it made it harder for Saskatchewan to drive. But that Bomber D held us in there in that first half. We were only down by 3 after what? We were 4 or 5 turnovers already at that time.
Yeah.
So, it was the D that saved us. Then, Saskatchewan has a chance to go up 13-7. I think that happened right after that fake punt, whatever mess happened there.
Yeah, he got worried. He saw someone coming to him.
Oh, I don't even know. I remember Shea had said something about they thought Saskatchewan had 13 men on the field, which Saskatchewan's good at having 13 men on the field.
They're prone to do that.
but I guess they didn't, or the rest didn't catch it. I don't know. But, that could have been the end of the game right there. Saskatchewan couldn't punch it in. Then they missed a field goal, and Jakari Grant there returns that, past midfield, and he was almost gone. Just got shoelaces basically that stopped him. And then the Bomber D, Andrew Harris, took over, give me that ball, and he pounds that in, and we take the lead. So that stadium was rocking when they took that 14-10 lead. I thought it was. I didn't think Saskatchewan was going to score again. Honestly, I thought it was over. Bombers D would add some more points, and that would be it. But of course, Saskatchewan got that long touchdown at the end of the third quarter and silenced that stadium pretty quick. So
yeah,
it was a tense going into that fourth quarter, being down. But again, Bombers offense answered with a TD. That was basically the game. We had 2 huge catches by Kenny Lawler on that drive by Kenny Lawler. Darwin Adams later on in the game with a huge one.
Yeah.
You can't say much more. The offense got it done when they had to, and that's almost been the story this season. The D has been amazing throughout it. Again, the D did not allow a point in the fourth quarter. Came away with 5 sacks, 2 fumbles, and then that big stop by Nick Taylor there at the end, who got burnt earlier on that long touchdown. He made the play to end the game, basically.
Yeah, there's a quiet confidence in Bomber Nation. I'm going to share some halftime experiences with y'all, ladies and gentlemen, friends and neighbors. The warmest place in the concourse is a men's washroom, without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah. But the conversation in the men's washroom is, don't worry about it, fourth quarter. And that's an attitude that's come from the team to the fans. It's not this, we're overconfident. No, fourth quarter is Bomber time. And the fans have adopted that. Fourth quarter is ours. So, as a Bomber fan, it was good being in that washroom, because I was a little worried. I was like, they got to snap out of this and figure it out. But, they calm me down and say, fourth quarter, we got this. So let's talk about the Grey Cup coming up. Who do you got winning that one? This is our Grey Cup preview, bro. We got one shot. Who do you got?
Well, I can't change my mind on this. And being a Bomber fan doesn't necessarily factor into who I'm picking here either, because the Bombers have been best. They've been the best team all season.
Yeah.
There's no question. They're the best team. They're the favorite going into this game. And that doesn't always necessarily translate into the who's going to win. But, the Bombers they played dominant football on D, and I think they'll be able to contain Hamilton still there. These two teams haven't played each other since week 1, and a lot has changed since then. I'm assuming Damon Evans is going to get the start, but we don't know yet who's going to get that. I can't see them going with Mazzoli, who's ineffective. The thing is with this game, I think the Bombers will make you pay on offense enough if you're not moving the ball. As long as the weather is good. And there's and it looks like it's supposed to be good. +5 actually for Sunday, which is
December.
Pretty damn good.
Yeah.
For a Grey Cup final. So yeah, you know what? Hamilton gets the benefit of the doubt or a little bit of a benefit, being at home.
Yeah.
So I think that will help make this game closer. I think it'll end up being closer than 2019, which in 2019 I expected the reverse. I expected Hamilton to win that game, no problem. Yeah. But I think it'll be closer than 2019, but I still believe the Bombers will come away with a victory and win their first back-to-back since the 60s.
Oh, I'd be excited for that. There is a quiet optimism in Bomberland. We've been burnt a couple times as favorites going into the final. But there's something different this year. We look at 2019 and we look at this team. This team is a better team than they were in 2019.
Oh, for sure.
They just started getting warm at the end of the year with Zach Caleros. The defense was fairly consistent, but this year they've been dominant since day one and getting better. Yeah. So as a Bomber fan, that's absolutely, I have so much confidence in that defense, but any given Sunday. So when it comes down to it, for me, it's about special teams and the battle at the line. And I know it's cliche, like I said last week, but both teams have great lines. Like the Bombers, 4 out of 5 starters on the offensive line are all-stars. Hamilton has 2 all-stars on their offensive line. Both teams have 3 all-stars in the front 7. So this is going to be a battle won in the trenches. As cliche and as boring as that may sound, I think this is where it'll be won. It'll be exciting to watch because the Bombers are known to bully teams around. And, if Hamilton has an edge and they want revenge, who knows who wins that battle. But it should be tight and it should be good. But I'm taking the Winnipeg Blue Bombers to bring home the cup.
Yeah, it's interesting because back in 2019, Hamilton won a bunch of individual awards and all that stuff, right? Now this year, it's Bombers that are up for more individual awards and some big ones. We got Simone Lawrence versus Adam Bighill for Defensive Player of the Year. Right? Yeah. Whoever loses that one, like we've all seen Simone Lawrence play, man, and that guy plays with an edge. If he loses that award, I think he's going to be, I don't know, he's going to wreck that game on Sunday and give Bombers offense some fits, right? So, and I expect Bighill, same thing, if he ends up losing that award. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see what comes out of there. We got 2 linemen, maybe not as much, but going up against each other. Hamilton's Brandon Revenberg against Stanley Bryant for that award. So, but then there's a couple other Bombers, O'Shea and who's the other one? Why can't I think of the other one right now?
4.
The other award that they're going for. There's 4 of them going for individual awards, right?
Yeah, isn't whatchamacallit? Not Dembski. Oh my gosh.
I'm drawing a blank on that other one right now.
So am I.
But anyways, if the Bombers end up sweeping that, it puts a little bit of a chip on the shoulder.
Who's going for Rookie of the Year? Alfred?
No, Alfred didn't end up making
what are we making it at the end right now?
So, yeah, so it'll be interesting. I always hate those awards. We've seen them before, Bombers sweep and then come out on Sunday and not be as strong. But I don't expect
they can't turn the ball over 6 times like they did this week. They cannot do that. That will not happen, and they win the game. That they have to absolutely avoid that. Fix that right away. Number 1 priority. Yeah. They can't be turning the ball over.
Exactly, like you say, 6 turnovers. They're not coming. They're not winning this game. But I expect that Bomber D, no matter how many awards they win, to come out and prove to this league how dominant they were.
Yeah. Well, let's. How about we get another take on what's going on with the Blue Bombers from a Blue Bomber legend, Canadian Football League Hall of Famer James Murphy joining us today. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing awesome. I'm doing so good. If I was doing any better, I'll be sugar. But no, I'm doing absolutely good and fantastic for old guy.
Yeah. Did you get to catch any of the Bomber action this weekend?
I did. I did. I pretty much thought it would go that way, having resting players for the last 3 weeks. I thought there might be even a little colder. The weather would be a little colder. But as you guys know and seen, good teams find a way to win. And, I gonna wait and reserve any crowning just yet. But that was just an absolute pleasure to watch. These guys, they deserve that win because they never gave up. And I guess we'll talk about it a little later on when we're talking about comparing, this team against the era of the 80s. But I thought it was a fantastic game defensively, offensively, and just that desire to win. It was just a true pleasure to watch.
Yeah, and you talk about those 80s teams and how physical they are. And of course, on our end as fans, we have that energy. There's that same energy built in the city of Winnipeg. So let's talk about your career in Winnipeg. What was your journey from Florida to the CFL? How'd you get here?
Well, that's a good question. I by way of Utah State University. Actually, I was originally from Florida. Got a 4-year scholarship to Utah State. My college coach, Bruce Snyder, at the time, came down to DeLand High in Florida, Central Florida, to recruit me. Back at in high school, I played against some great athletes down there. One guy you probably remember was an outstanding baseball player by the name of Tim Raines. Played for Montreal for years.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
so his community was just 10, 12 miles down the street, down the road. And but he was an outstanding football player. I remember watching Chris Collinsworth right in high school. I played against Collinsworth.
Holy cow.
So it was just a great, growing up in Central Florida. University of Florida is about 90 miles. Florida State, not that far. So it was. I got a chance to watch some great football, and I had a desire to lead the state of Florida, and I was fortunate enough to have a good high school career. Not a great, but a good one. We had 11 guys from our high school got scholarships, and a buddy of mine, chose Utah State. University of Miami recruited me. But they wanted the quarterback. They told me if the quarterback signed, they'll take me. And right. Utah State highly recruited me. So I ended up going up to Utah State, playing in an offense where we threw the ball, a pro-type offense. I caught a lot of football. That's where I really honed my skills was at Utah State. Second leading receiver in the nation my junior year. And third leading receiver in the nation of all colleges my fourth year. It was kind of ironic coming out of Utah State is because 18, 19-year-old kid, my father had just passed away, and I decided that I'm going to forego my redshirt year. As I look back on it now, might not have been the smartest thing to do, but I decided that's what I wanted to do. So I decided that I was going to make myself eligible for the draft, the 1981 NFL draft. Something I probably, if I'd have waited around another year, I probably could have would have got drafted higher. Scouts came up, and they was telling me that Detroit Lions said, "Oh yeah, we're going to take you in the third round." They said, "Well, James, we like you. You're a diamond in the rough." A diamond in a rough. What is a diamond in a rough? I'm a diamond and I'm rough. I mean, I'm 18, 19 years old. But so I don't really know what that meaning was, but I thought it was pretty good. So I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to do it. Just about that time before the draft, about couple, 3 months before the draft, my agent phoned me up and said, hey, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are having a tryout camp down in Southern California in Harborview College, community college. You want to come down? Yeah, sure, I'll go come down and see what I can do. You know, I'm the third leading receiver in the nation. I'm waiting on the NFL draft. Sure, I'll come down. So I went down there, and me and a couple other buddies, we go out and we're working out. man, I'm running by these guys left and right because a lot of these guys are off the street looking to get a contract, a CFL contract. Yeah. And I already know that I'm probably going to be going to the NFL. I'm not sure, right? I'm just waiting on the draft. So after the camp was over, Paul Robson, he comes up to me and he says, James, we want to sign you to a contract. We'll give you $5,000 and sign you to, I think it was about $50,000 contract. Man, I wasn't a poor guy, but I had that kind of money, right? So yeah. I turned him down. I said, thank you, Mr. Robinson. Mr. Robinson, I really appreciate the offer. However, I think I want to see if I can play in the National Football League. And he said, okay, James, okay, all right. So I go back to Utah and finish up school for the year, and draft came around in April. First day come around, no call. Second day comes around and get a call from the Minnesota Vikings. They say, yeah, Mr. Murphy, we drafted you in the 10th round. Oh, okay. That's all I wanted was an opportunity. So I go to training camp, and one of the first people that I noticed is Bud Grant. Like I knew who Bud Grant was because I grew up in Florida, watching Miami, and Miami was my team because I was on the team back in the day. So Miami and the Vikings, it was always head to head. But before I should say that, let me just add this. Growing up in Florida, Miami was my team. I hated the Vikings. I hated the Vikings with a passion. The purple people eaters. Yeah. Right? And so I got the call from the Vikings. I mean, I'm not overwhelmed. I'm happy, but I'm not. It's not something that just lifts me over the top. But anyway, okay, they drafted me. There's nothing I can do about it. So I show up in Mankato State, and I see the silver fox walking around. When I'm walking, I'm looking at this guy. I'm just amazed because I watched this man, coach Super Bowls, and there's Ahmad Rashad, there's Sammy White, all of these stars that I admired. Man, I'm just overwhelmed. So I go out to camp, have a very good camp, catching the ball, running by people, having a good camp. And I thought things were working out. But one day I'm standing, I'm practicing, and I see Bud Grant talking to this guy. He's a black guy, but I don't know who he is. But I hear Ahmad Rashad saying, Bud over talking to Leo Lewis. He's over talking to Leo Lewis. I have no idea who Leo Lewis is, right? Yeah. So I'm competing against Leo Lewis Jr. for that next spot. And Bud is talking to his dad. Yeah. So a couple of days later, I get the call in the Bud's office that they released me. Okay, well, okay. Very disappointed. Yeah. So I said, called my agent up and said, can you call Winnipeg? And so he phoned up Winnipeg, and Winnipeg said, yeah, we'll bring him up. This was in September. So I come up to Winnipeg. I'm flying into Winnipeg. I'm looking around because I've never been to Canada before. I'm looking around like, where the igloos at? I'm serious. I heard of some of the prominent great Lauren Green, Monty Hall, Burton Cummins. I heard these guys on the radio, but I never really had an idea of what it would look like in Canada because I grew up in the southern United States. I mean, we taught history, but it was European history, Russian history, our adversaries. Canada wasn't a threat to us. They're like our little brother. So there was never really a whole bunch of history, especially living in the southern United States. But anyway, I come up and I have a good little workout, and I'm still not happy. And I said, Brahms told me, Ray Yark was the head coach. And he said, well, James, this was in September. It was getting closer to the playoff. We want to sign you for next year. So you know what? No, I'm going to go back and see if I can play in the NFL. So I go back down, and I ended up signing with Kansas City Chiefs. And there's a story to that as well. Because when I go home back to Florida, my agent said, okay, I got a team for you, Kansas City Chiefs. We're going to fly you to Kansas City in the morning, be at the airport. Get to the airport, go on the plane. I'm heading to Kansas City. There's a layover in Atlanta. So as the plane is going into Atlanta, they say over the intercom there, PA system, James Murphy, could you stay on the plane? There's so and so from the Atlanta Falcons want to talk to you. I'm like, what? I'm supposed to be going to Kansas City. So this general manager comes in and says, yeah, well, we talked to your agent and we want to sign you. We're going to take you over here to the Falcons training camp. Oh, okay. So I go and I'm there for 2 weeks. A player get hurt, so they release me. Oh, I can't believe it. So I go back to Florida and get another call the next day and say, well, Kansas City still want to try you out. Martin Levy was a head coach. So I fly to Kansas City. I run a 4.340. And so the Chiefs end up signing me. Oh, okay. Right. So I finally found me home. So I was there for about a year and a half, sixth leading kickoff return guy in the league, had a pretty good special teams player. I thought I could play wide receiver, but I was still young. I wasn't quite there yet. And but they ended up releasing me in training camp the next year. They drafted the number 1 draft pick, and they released me. But I said to myself, to my wife, I'm sick of the politics, right? I'm just sick of the politics. I'm not a prototype receiver. And back in the day, they wanted 6'2", 6'4" receivers, right? And so I decided, I'm going to go back up to Winnipeg and I'm going to sign, and this is where I want to play. So I ended up, Paul Robson again said, yep, come on back, James, come on back. So I flew back and I signed with the Bombers in late October, but I didn't end up playing until September of 1982. My first game against the Calgary Stampeders, Dieter Brock threw my first touchdown pass, and of course the rest is history. But it was that was I guess what you call it. Just a desire to not to give up, right? They could have easily broken my spirit, easily broken my will, and it happens so much in the CFL. Now, it wasn't in professional sports, right? And I think it made me a better person, and the type of person that when you have a dream, you got to follow that dream.
Yes.
Before you went to Florida there for that tryout, with the Bomber or the CFL, the Bombers. Had you heard about the CFL before, or even Winnipeg?
Well, yes, because at Utah State there was Canadians on the team, and they was getting drafted. Rob Smith. There was we have trying to think of been so long ago. He's from Kelowna, BC. He was a linebacker. Ken Shinkoni. I don't know if you guys remember that name, but he was Canadian and he was drafted. And so I heard of it. Actually, the Hamilton Tiger Cats sent me a couple of letters my senior year in college, but I didn't know much about it. And but when I did learn more about it, and especially when I came up here after that first time, and I picked up a program guide or one of the Bomber guides, right? And I looked and I saw one of the things that really made me want to play here and stay here was when I saw that Bud Grant had played here, because I didn't know until I looked at that guy. Oh, Bud Grant was a star here. Leo Lewis was a star here. And then I heard somebody say Leo Lewis was his favorite player. Then I put it all together, right? And but it was kind of fate, it's just fate. And so it was quite the journey and quite the lesson. And like I said, when I saw Bud Grant, because at one time he was all-time leading receiver. And so when I saw his name in that book, I said, I'm going to break his record. And that was a gold mine to break his record. And Joe Poplawski ended up breaking it. And of course, I ended up breaking both of those guys' record.
Speaking of that game on Sunday there, we were there. It was a very cold, frigid December day. I mean, that was the first December game played, a football game outside in Winnipeg. Not probably the greatest idea, but hey, it had to happen. So what was it? Did you ever, well, I'm sure you did, but which do you remember a game that was just as cold for you playing in the playoffs or at Winnipeg Stadium? And what was it like playing in that stadium in the cold?
Well, I think the coldest game we probably played in, I don't know how old you guys would have been in 1984. But 1984, that was probably like minus 17 wind chill factors around minus 30. And a good story for that game was that we had some smart people that understood that time of year and the type of conditions we're going to be playing in. So prepare yourself with the proper equipment. And I don't know if you guys heard the story that Cal, obviously playing in the Edmonton, coaching in Edmonton, he knew some tricks of the trade. So we ended up bringing broom ball shoes for all the players. Right, I know you guys probably heard that story, and it worked out great. I mean, they were giving me these broom ball shoes. I'm like, what? Broom ball shoes? I have no idea what broom ball shoes are. But they ended up, and they didn't give you much support, so we ended up getting spatted. But and it worked out for us because those guys were slipping and sliding all over the place, and we were able to maintain some really good traction and footing to, I think, gave us a bit of an advantage. But yeah, that was the coldest. But I also remember even practicing up to that week, and Cal would he made the Canadian receivers take their gloves off, like Rick Howes and Joe Poplawski. And he said, the American players, you guys, okay, you Canadians, you're not wearing any gloves. I'm like, I got my gloves.
Wow.
No, I was cold. And I sort of admired those guys the other day. Like you said, Benny, because I was sitting in my living room there looking out the window and could hear that wind howling, right? The snow blowing. And I thought it would be a bigger factor than what it was. And it appeared to be, just another Sunday football game for those guys. So I really admire them the way they handled that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Now, you talk about weather being almost like another opponent on the field, but real opponents, who was like a DB or a couple of DBs who you felt you had a tough time, or you never were looking forward to going toe to toe with them, or was there any that you had no problem with?
Oh yeah. Well, there was a couple of guys that gave me nightmares. There was a couple of guys where I couldn't sleep the whole week because I know I got to have my stuff together. And one of them was Terry Irving for the Calgary Stampeders back in 1982. This is when DBs were DBs. They backpedal. They didn't turn, right, and run. They had great techniques. But Terry was about 6'3", 6'4", and this guy can cover. He talked trash, and he was just a physical. And I heard James West talk about the HBCUs. What is it called? Yes. And I think he played at one of those schools, and he was just a tough guy. Man, I'm telling you guys, he kept me up thinking about, all of my techniques, what I have to do to be able to beat this guy. And I was competitive against him, but man, it was him, Harry Skipper he played for Montreal and he played for Saskatchewan. And those guys in Edmonton, Joe Holloman, man, that was the back in the day where this pass interference rule, man, that's a joke.
It didn't exist.
It didn't exist pretty much, but no, it was some really good physical battles back in the day, and it was. I mean, you have to be on your game, and back then as well, guys wasn't making a whole lot of money. There wasn't a whole lot of incentive for a DBs to get interception, or for me, a receiver catching passes. Only people that got incentives was usually the quarterbacks, right? Or if your name's Tom Clemens or Adela Brock. Mm-hmm. So we played for the love of the game, right? Guys was out there trying to take your head off. Guys was out there talking about your mama. They was trying to get any kind of edge that they could to be able to win that game. And if you're gonna talk about my mama, we gonna have a battle going on. And most of the time, it was. And I tell you, and just going into the meetings, after a game, watching game film was, again, you would get criticized. You would get picked on if you're not doing your assignment, right? If you're loafing. So it was a different time back then, but the game has changed for a reason, and I get it, right? For the safety of the player, right? There's reduced head injuries, right? The lawsuits. So I get it. I get it where they have all these rules and new penalties, but it's just a different time, a different era.
You're speaking of all these opposing DBs that you played up against, but those Bombers Ds in the 80s were pretty good too. What was it like going up in practice against the likes of Rod Hill, Ken Haley, Les Brown, even Tyrone Jones and James West? Did those guys help you to become a better receiver also?
Well, absolutely. We competed in practice every day. David Shaw, like I say, Haley, even Tyrone Jones. I remember one day Tyrone, he want to step out there after practice and tell me he can cover me. He can cover me? What do you mean you can cover me? What? Okay, I cover you 5 out of 5. What? Oh, no. I go to the quarterback. Okay, let's line this sucker up. First one, ran by him. Third one, in route, caught it. Third one, I did some move on him and the gun caught it. And he twisted his ankle. Right? I was like, whoa. And but that's how competitive we were in practice. Les Brown, the Scott Flagel, even the strong safeties and the free safety, we would get involved. But then we'd tone it down. We would tone it down when it get closer to game time because, we loved each other. We worked for each other. We laughed and we enjoyed being around each other. But we was very competitive, and I think that was one of the factors in making us such a great team.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to throw some numbers at you. 116, 1,746, 12. 116 receptions, 1,746 yards, 12 TDs in 1986.
Not bad.
Tell us about that magical season, the MVP season.
Man, that was an unbelievable season. An unbelievable season. I remember going home in 1985 because I had broke my ankle or sprained my ankle and didn't break it. It was just a bad sprain. So I didn't really end up finishing up the year. And I said to myself that I'm going to be the most valuable player in this league. I'm going to be the best receiver in this league next year. And I was just talking to myself. So I go back to Utah, and I was living in Utah at the time. And I decided I'm going to get mentally prepared for the next season. So I went to this guy. He's a hypnosis, and he taught me how to do self-hypnosis, to be able to. He gave me a mantra to focus every day. James, when you get up, I want you to go and say this mantra every day, and I did it every day religiously. I would go to the stadium. I would catch footballs. People don't realize I was very strong. I can bench press over 350 pounds, right? Wow. And I learned that in high school because we had state weightlifting team in the state of Florida. Not only that, we had over $1 million worth of Nautilus equipment when the Nautilus first came out, right? Dick Buckers, all these guys was always down to my high school. So I knew that I had to be strong. And people really don't realize how strong. I played with speed and I played with power. And people, they looked at my size and I think they kind of underestimated my strength. But I had to be strong to be able to go across the middle, be able to pluck that ball out of the air. One of my mottos was catch it and pay for it, right? When the ball is thrown, it belonged to us. Go up and get it. Run on the sideline pattern, catch the ball, because the referee would never call you in bounds if you drop it. These are the affirmations I used to tell myself as I fall asleep, right, over and over and over and over again. And it became a part of my, just part of me. And so, and to be able to get at that level in 1986, I think that's what it was for me. And I already had a strong faith in God. And so I put that together. And I think it just gave me that much more confidence, not arrogance, just confident to be able to want to be the best, play for other people, and play for my teammates. And I think I don't know, that I tell you that it was just something about 1986 where I felt so good. And and I think it's just all those just being focused and was a part of that.
James West mentioned last week that 87 team was probably one of you guys' better teams that didn't end up winning the Grey Cup. And I actually remember being at the East Final in 87. It was cold that day too.
Yeah.
And expecting an easy victory, and it didn't happen. You guys ended up losing. So do you kind of agree with that? Because he also said 88 was not as good, but you guys ended up winning the Grey Cup there. So if you can touch on that a little bit.
Oh, I totally agree with that. Even when you just brought it up again, that sinking feeling in my stomach that just kind of came back, because that was the year that we had the total package. I mean, offensively, defensively, quarterback, special teams. We had the total package. I believe we were 12-6, just dominating the East, I believe, because the Montreal Alouettes had folded, so they moved us from the West to the East, and a lot of the fans in the East was upset, disappointed, but it worked out to our advantage. And like James West said, I think we got caught up with a lot of the cockiness and thought we was better than what we actually didn't play up to our potential. And like he said, we had a lot of plans for after party, right? I remember stopping by the LC and picking up a bottle of champagne. So, oh, yeah, I got the champagne ready, put it on ice. When I get home, oh, boy, we're gonna celebrate. Man, by the second quarter, third quarter roll around, I could just thinking to myself, why the hell did I go and pick up a bottle of champagne for? Right? You start having these thoughts.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, the game's over. Got your butt kicked. I got home. I took that bottle and I poured it down in the sink. Because I would have never been able to enjoy it. I just poured it down the sink, and it's been a lesson for me. Right, it's probably one of the biggest lessons that I learned. I think it was a lesson for all of us, because like Wes and you guys know, that next year, although we were not a 9 team, we lost Tom Clements, we lost a lot of players, but the rich fiber and Winnipeg tradition was still there. It was still there. We just needed to just come together at the right time, and we did. And we was able to make some plays and win a Grey Cup again. And that's why for Sunday, I'm just so scared that these guys, I'm not scared, but I just, because I think these guys get it. I think they get it, that they got to show up and play. All odds are against them, because they kicked Hamilton butt last year, and the Grey Cup game is in Hamilton. Man, you got to be focused, because Hamilton wants this game, and that's what it's going to come down to. Who won it the most? But I think the Bombers, I think they're just too good. They're a well-coached team, from the management to the top to the bottom. And I don't think players are going to be going out during the week, partying and, enjoying the festivities. No. We're here for business. And I think if they maintain that attitude, they'll be bringing the cup back to Winnipeg.
Yeah, they are a formidable team. Like, we haven't seen a team this strong in Winnipeg since the 80s and the early 90s.
And I was just running this by you guys. They remind me of the 1984 team. And there's a resemblance, especially for the receivers. And I kind of going through this receivers, the resemblance, like Drew Watarski, could be Poplawski, Nick Dembski, Rick House, Darwin Adams, Jeff Boyd, and Kenny Lawyer. It can be me, right? So I kind of looked at those guys, and then you got the running backs. You got Andrews, Willa Reeves, right? And Sean Kehoe would be Mike Miller. So, and Clemens, pretty much Zach Collaros. They're very similar to that 1984 team. And I was just thinking about that today, and I'm looking, like, oh my goodness, these guys really remind us of that 84 team. So let's just hope they go out and do what the 84 team did.
Yeah. We look at that roster, and there are some. You mentioned Andrew Harris, definite future Hall of Famer. Maybe even someone like Willie Jefferson, future Hall of Famer. What was it like when you got the call to be inducted into the CFL Hall of Fame, and you were able to go to Hamilton, one of Winnipeg Blue Bombers' favorite spots to go? What was that whole experience like for you?
It was special. It was special. It was very special. And I think what made it even that much more special is my mom passed away that year, a couple of months before, and I was hoping she can hang on to be there. So my brothers and my sister, my family in Michigan, they all showed up, and when I got there, they gave me a real nice big painting or drawing of my mother. Man, and I just broke down because I know that she was looking down on me, and because I think she was just so proud of me, you know, a young Black man growing up in the 60s and 70s in Florida. You know, I didn't really understand the ripple effect of the civil rights movements or the sit-in movements. All of these different types of movement was for me to be able to have an equal rights, to be able to go to college. For me, I didn't know the difference. I was just a little kid, right? We had all the food I want. My mom provided clothes, and I didn't know that, you know, there's a system that was against me, a Black kid, my brothers and my sisters. And so I know that she was just so proud to see that I was able to overcome those barriers and be able to, you know, just the family name, and just, it was special, man. I tell you, it was quite special.
Yeah.
In your time here, you played with a bunch of QBs in Winnipeg in the 80s. Who was your favorite one to play with, and who helped you out the most?
That's a good question, man. I tell you, playing with Dieter Brock was when I first got here, because I could run, and I could be 40, 45, 50 yards down the field, and he would just sling it. And I felt like with him, like a golden retriever chasing a stick, right? You throw it, there you go get it. And I would go get it. I was just, man, it was just, in practice, it was just, man, I couldn't believe this guy, the arm. I mean, all he needed was, he didn't need very much, right, to be able to, he put the ball right in my numbers. All I had to do was catch it. And he, man, I tell you what, he split a couple of my fingers, but he was probably, and Tom was a different type of quarterback. Tom was smart. Tom would set up a guy, set up DB, James running out, James running out and up, right? Because he know this guy, this DB is going to bite him. He's biting. Okay, I got him now, James. We got him on the hook. And give me out and up. Boom, boom. I'm gone. Touchdown. John Hofnagel. I know when John Hofnagel came in the game, I was running deep patterns, deep post corners, go routes, my favorites. So they pretty much were all my favorite. And even Sean Salisbury, you know, I don't put him in that category of those three, but from time to time, he could put it out there for me, and I enjoy playing with him. But I have to say that Brock and Clemens and Hufnagel were by far the great receivers. I had an opportunity to play with, I don't know if you guys remember Eric Hipple. Eric Hipple was a starting quarterback for the Detroit Lions. Get a chance, Google his name, Eric Hipple, for many, many years. He was my starting quarterback at Utah State University. I also played with a guy by the name of Craig Bradshaw, Terry Bradshaw's younger brother. And Craig threw the ball as hard as Dieter, right? So I had, from college, I was used to playing with guys with strong arms who can throw. They understood, you know, just get the ball to James on a hit screen, get it to him on a deep post or a post corner. And so, yeah, I was very, very fortunate. And you can't, you got to remember as well, I got to give credit to the offensive line. You got to give credit to running backs for the protecting the quarterback, and Rick Howes and Joe Poplawski, Jeff Boyd. These guys, man, it was just a pleasure to work with a group of receivers as those guys, Perry Tuttle. Man, I tell you what, I had so much fun, being able to do something that I love doing and being blessed and to be able to win championships and setting records and, just creating a whole bunch of joy for a whole lot of people. I'm just totally blessed.
Yeah, you certainly did. We enjoyed watching you throughout the 80s there and everything. So
thank you.
We're absolutely blessed to have you in Winnipeg.
Thank you.
And before you have to go, I just want to ask you one more question. What was it like to raise that Grey Cup for the first time and drink out of it for the first time in the spirit of Grey Cup week? Tell us about that.
Well, I just remember sitting in that locker room and freezing cold. Edmonton, it wasn't even cold anymore. I felt like I was in Tahiti somewhere, right? The warmth just overcame me. The joy, the pure. And not only for me and for our team, but for the province of Manitoba. We understood, the drought, what it was like, Somebody please bring me a drink of water. Bring me some water. Nobody will bring you a drink of water. Finally, you get that drink. And it is not water, it's champagne. Yeah. So it was probably a feeling that I'll never be able to describe. I'll never be able to replicate. It was just an outstanding joy to be standing in that locker room and with a cigar and just it was thank you very much for bringing it up because again that outweighs the feeling of losing in 1987. But no, it was just a great pleasure and it's just an honor to be able to be a part of that.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, again, we can't thank you enough for joining us. Like who gets to say in my position, I got to sit down and talk with two Canadian Football League Hall of Famers in, successive weeks. So thank you so much. And on my personal note, as a young Black kid in Winnipeg, you, Willard Reeves, Tone Jones, James West were my first Black idols that I got to look up to. So I can't thank you enough for being such a good example within the community and being such great role models. I appreciate that. I can't even describe how much I appreciate that.
That's outstanding. Thank you very much, Ray, and I really appreciate you guys having me on, and all the best to you. And I'm really glad that you guys is doing what you're doing, right, and reaching a whole lot of people, young men that aspiring to play sports. And when they listen to guys like Wes, myself, and even you guys, what I like about what you guys are doing is you guys grew up in the era and you're passing that on. Winnipeg is a great sports town because if they don't hear from anybody, how are they going to know? Right. Yeah. So I think it's important to be able to have you guys to be able to continue to spread the goodness of what we did back in the day, even though it was back in the day. But the story is going to live on forever, just by what you guys and what you're doing. And I thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what we want to do. We want to relive those memories too, and have you guys come out here and relay your information because we saw it from one lens as fans, but we didn't know what was going on in the field or in the locker room or the joys of victory and defeat and all that stuff. So thank you very much for coming on here and letting us know and getting us an insight into those times.
Well, like I said, some stories can be told and some stories may take a few more years. So I'll be checking you guys out. And if there's anything that I can help you guys out with, please let me know.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And the door is always open for you to come back. We'd love to talk some more. And maybe we'll get into those stories back in the day.
Okay. All the best, guys. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you. Peace and love.
All the best to you as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
What an honor. What an honor. Let's move on to our Winnipeg Jets. We got a week of action to catch up on. They're currently playing the Carolina Hurricanes. Things have changed in the past week with the Jets, haven't they? I remember I was pooping on them pretty bad on Paul Maurice's line changes. I was calling for the third week in a row Blake Wheeler on the fourth line, and Paul Maurice was like, bro, hold my beer. I got Wheeler on the first line again. What are your thoughts on what happened last week and the Jets putting up 14 goals in 2 games?
Yeah,
What's changed?
I guess last week we were coming off a 7-1 loss to the Wild, a 1-0 loss to Arizona.
Yeah.
Doom and gloom was all over last week. Fire Pomo. I still on the Fire Pomo wagon anyways, but I will leave that alone for this week because they came out.
Leave it alone this week.
Just this week. We'll see what happens here over the next week. Big win over the Devils, 8-4. Then we had the Leafs come in on Bombers Sunday, and the Jets, in Wheeler's 1,000th game in the NHL, the Jets, did it for Winnipeg and did it for Wheeler and made that whole day a great day to be a Winnipegger.
No doubt.
They pounded the Leafs 6-3. The biggest thing for me on the Jets was this power play got going.
Yeah.
They only won against New Jersey, but 1 for 4 against the Leafs, 3 for 5. So it was good. It was good to see that. It was good to see Scheifele getting some goals. He got the hat trick against the Devils. He ended up with 4 goals, 2 assists in those 2 games. Ehlers 3 goals. It was nice to see those guys get going that have been struggling a little bit. No goals for Wheeler, but at least he popped in a bunch of assists. So, I mean, the only thing that kind of worries me still is that penalty kill. Gave up a few goals in those 2 games, but you know what? Good 2 games for the Jets to kind of turn it around. And like you say, they're in action tonight against Carolina. So hopefully pull away with a victory there too.
Yeah, and to go along with the goals, they seem to be kind of playing with a bit of an edge. I don't know if they were upset because they lost to the Coyotes and they got smashed 7-1. But, you look at players like Dubois and Pionk, especially in that Toronto game, which we'll get into in a second, how they were playing with a physical edge and they were dictating the physicality of the game, which personally, I love that style of play. You know me, back to when they were playing Nashville, I love that smash mouth hockey, toe-to-toe. And I loved how they bring it to Toronto, bro. Y'all in Toronto Leafs Nation, I'm done with your crying over a 2-game suspension over Pionk. Tell your man to get his leg in. That was not, he did not target the knee on that one. So Leafs Nation, shut up. Stop your crying. You're lucky you got 2 games on that. But what are your thoughts on that crazy physical game against Toronto on Winnipeg Sunday?
Yeah, there was also a wrestling match between Matthews and Dubois up the ice and stuff like that. So it almost felt like a playoff game, at least on the Jets side, the way they were playing it in Toronto kind of backed up a little bit. But after that hit, then you got the dirty stuff happening. Jason Spezza coming in with
what a clown.
That knee to Pionk's head, who Pionk now is in concussion protocol, and he won't travel with the Jets when they go on the road here in a couple of days. Spezza ended up getting 6 games for that. So I don't know, man. It's just you can be angry about the hit. Go out there, and if you want to start a fight, face the guy face to face and all that stuff. But to go at a guy low like that who's already on the ice, and you can make any excuse. Oh, he was going in for a check and Pionk.
Get out of here.
No.
He went low to hit him on the ground.
You saw his body go low. He had no intentions of not hitting Pionk, full intentions of hitting him there altogether. So it's a little disappointing to see that kind of stuff still going on in the NHL. And then you had Wayne Simmons running around like a crazy man all game too.
What's up with that guy? What was going on? Was he on cocaine crack, man? He was just running around looking for trouble. And also that coach, man, Sheldon Keefe. What was he doing? I get it. You lost to Minnesota and you're getting physically handled. But what are you trying to start here? What are you trying to start here? Throwing Simmons out with how many seconds? 34 seconds left?
Yeah, it's over.
Clown. What a clown show.
Yeah.
He was a little bitter there. He's a bit of a Toronto baby.
Well, it sounds like the whole team is, because it sounds like they've circled the next matchup, which is not till March. So I don't know. They're waiting for their revenge or coming back for their revenge. So hopefully it sends the Leafs down into a downward spiral that they can recover from. But
that'll be fun to watch, bro. I'd watch all of those games for sure.
Unfortunately, they are winning tonight. So
let's move on then. Talk about downward spirals. Vancouver cleaning out the house. GM gone, head coach Khan, Bruce Boudreau, already getting chants from the fans and loving it. What are your thoughts on the Canucks moving on with a big-time front office change?
Yeah, I guess it was pretty inevitable, right? We saw this kind of coming. We discussed this, I believe, a couple episodes ago. Like, it was kind of dragging out in a way. It wasn't getting any better over the last couple of weeks. You got to the point where now fans were booing, chanting for Jim Benning's firing, throwing the jersey on the ice. It's like,
that's
dude,
shameful.
you already paid $100 and something for that jersey, man.
Stupid.
Donate it. Like, why are you throwing it onto the ice? Like, I don't know. I don't know about the Bruce Boudreau hiring. He is a good coach. He's always been a good regular season coach. Playoffs, he hasn't been able to figure out how to win there. But to me, it's funny because I was reading today, and the owner feels they have a competitive team. That's why they fired, because they weren't getting there. Well, if you're going to say that, doesn't mean that you think Jim Benning actually did a good job and put together a competitive team.
That's what I thought.
And it's just coaching. So why would you go and fire the GM if you thought that? I don't like that comment. Tell the real reason. Nothing worked out. Jim Benning put together a pretty awful D and spent a lot of money doing that. And, things weren't working out. So clean house, move on, and see what they can do. They named Stan Smeal as interim GM. So we'll see what they do for the rest of the season. But Bruce Boudreau has been signed for 2 years. So if you hire a GM, then you're sticking him with Boudreau.
Yeah.
How's that dynamic going to work? I guess we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, they got to bring in a guy who supports Boudreau. Boudreau's a good guy to bring in because he's known for being a defensive style of hockey, and they need help defensively, giving up almost the most dangerous chances in the NHL. So for right now, Bruce Boudreau is probably a good call as head coach. He brings his own culture. He definitely has a control of the locker room, which that team seems to like. Green, seeing that guy look up again at the scoreboard and just be absolutely clueless. You won't see that from Boudreau. No. He's not playing around like that. So I kind of approve of that hiring. And they do have all year to find, and they'll wait till the offseason. They say they are committed to a thorough and exhaustive search. So they'll wait for some people from other teams that they can interview as well. They're in no rush. And we'll see what they can do. They'll probably get rid of some of those contracts come trade deadline, if they're not happy with them. Might as well.
I don't know. There's not too many they can get rid of, though. You signed Pullman for a few years. Myers still has a few years. I mean, Larson still has more. So it'll be tough to get rid of some of those.
Yep. Let's talk about another team moving in another direction. The Philadelphia Flyers firing your friend Alain Vigneault. 8-game losing streak. Almost the same thing, eh? Writing was on the wall. It had to be done.
Yeah, I never liked that hiring in the first place. It's like, is there never any new coaches or anything that these guys can look for when they hire a coach? I mean,
old boys.
Vigneault wasn't good at the end of his tenure in New York. It's like, so why bring him into Philly? Find someone else that had some new ideas. They brought in Vigneault. They had Michael Therrien as their power play coach. And I mean, both of them stunk, nothing worked out. And I don't put full blame on Vigneault. I blame Fletcher as well. He came in, took over for Hextall. And I think he's been worse. He went back to the old Flyer way of, let's sign this guy and give him all this money for nothing. They went and signed Kevin Hayes to that ridiculous contract, after being with Winnipeg there for half a season. Why? You finally cleared up your cap space. You got some young guys coming in. Make proper deals or make a good deal and see what you could bring in, and then this year you had Carter Hart struggle last year. So you go and bring in Martin Jones as his backup. Well, Martin Jones hasn't been good, in a long time. So
no,
how's that going to help the kid? It just leaves the same amount of pressure on Hart that it did last year. So, but again, some of the blame does go around to all the players. Giroux is having a great year so far. Been pretty good, but Couturier, he's been, a slow start to the season, underachieving. Konechny, you got Van Riemsdyk, who's making also $7 million a year and has 2 goals so far this season. Yeah. And unfortunately, injuries has hurt Hayes and Ryan Ellis this year, so maybe that hasn't helped them get off to a good start, but we'll see. You got that video the other day of the dog taking a dump on the Flyers logo at center ice, and that's
Time for a change.
The season going on so far.
Time for a change. I don't think Mike Yeo is the answer long term, but let's see how they do. They just put up 4 against the Avs. They're on a 9-game losing streak now, but goals have been a concern. They've been, playing 1-game, 2-game goals, sprinkling a couple of times. They got shut out. So putting up 4 against the Avs may be a sign of something changing. I put my money on them making the playoffs.
But they also gave up 7 against the Avs. So
yeah, it's the Avs.
That's 7 in the last 2 games they've given up.
The interesting name I'm hearing, of course, is Rick Tocchet, Flyer at heart, through and through.
Yeah.
And yet again, though, old school hiring. This is the NHL. Let's make sure your boys have their jobs. So we'll see who they hire. Yeah, exactly. The old boys club. Let's move to another old boys club in the NFL. Ooh. What a crazy season still going on. Let's give it up for the Lions for winning their first game of the season. I'm saying ain't too much to talk about there, but just shout out to them. And how embarrassing for the Vikings. We live in Manitoba. We know a lot of Viking fans, so sorry, y'all. We hear a lot of frustration and anger, but this week was a bit quiet, no? I don't know if they were too tired for the playoff game and for the Jets game, but they were pretty quiet after that Lions loss this weekend. Ouch.
Yeah, they're hoping maybe we all forget about it if they don't talk about it. Never happened or something. Yeah, we have a few Viking fans that listen here to the podcast, and we gave the Vikes some love about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago when they beat Green Bay, right?
Yeah, contender.
Yeah, contender, I was still calling them a pretender at that point, but now we've seen they came out, they lost to the Niners. Okay, not bad. There's a close game. Get back on your horse and go beat the winless Lions and get right back on the right track. But then you go and lose. And not only that, the Lions drove with the last play of the game to score a touchdown to beat you.
It was a nice one. Right in between coverage. Beautiful.
Congrats to the Lions. It was nice to see, it was good to see because Jared Goff's been hearing it. He hasn't won an NFL game without Sean McVay as his coach, blah, blah, blah. That stuff's got to get tiring.
For sure.
Good to get Dan Campbell. I don't know if he'll ever turn out to be a good coach, but at least he got that victory. The Lions were excited there, and they got it done, and they didn't have to go through another 0 and whatever season.
Imagine another one. Thank gosh it wasn't the Steelers. Oh my gosh. Let's talk about the Chiefs, who have turned their season around. We kind of left them for dead, or at least I did. I was like, that defense cannot be fixed. Patrick Mahomes is stuck in neutral, kind of still is. But they've put some wins together, and they're looking like the top team in the AFC again. What are your thoughts? Are they for real? Are they back? Are the Chiefs back?
I'm not going to say they're back fully yet, just because that offense is still struggling.
Yes.
That the D has come out and played well. The offense had one good game against the Raiders over this stretch of 5 wins. But they barely beat the Giants. They beat the Packers, who were without Aaron Rodgers. They beat the Cowboys. But again, the D was the main part of them winning those games. Even this Sunday, Mahomes didn't do a heck of a lot. Didn't get a lot going. They did have a pick 6. So that's 6 points right there, 7 if you count the extra point. So it's a stat here with Mahomes. He's averaging under 9 yards per average for pass when he's usually over 9 yards. And the amount of interceptions. So I'm still not totally buying Kansas City yet, just until I can see some consistency out of that offense. They got a great offense, so I fully expect it at some point to get going. But maybe some teams have figured it out, or figured enough out to kind of slow them down. But good for Kansas City that D has decided to wake up and start playing to a high level.
Yeah, I think they're realizing how big a piece Sammy Watkins actually was in that offense. He took some attention away and a bit of the inside away from the attention from Kelsey and Hill.
True, yeah.
And these guys, what did they put up this last game? I don't have it in front of me. 20, 30 yards each, maybe. Especially when you don't have a running game that can hit 100 yards consistently, like under 90 yards again this week. I agree with you. The defense has started to click, but that offense is just looking pathetic. I don't know if it's because they're figured out or they just have no confidence or they can't spread the ball around. But it's very clear that they need a third receiver and they need a running game. So I don't think they're a playoff team, bro. I think they're a team that can maybe wreck someone's day. But I don't think they're a playoff team in regards to making a deep run because that offense looks fragile. It looks weak. Pop gun offense. I wouldn't put my money on them. Sorry, I wouldn't put.
Yeah, like you say. Sorry, yeah. I mean,
go ahead.
Six of their completions actually out of 15 for Mahomes were to the running backs. And that they had 3 each. And Kelsey had 3. Hill had 2 only. So yeah. So that offense, I think teams are giving them that underneath stuff, and Mahomes is finally taking it and not making those mistakes. And I think that's getting them enough to win the games. But yeah, their downfield offense, where did it go?
Yeah, you put bracket coverage on Hill and Kelsey, you're done.
Yeah,
they're done, and defenses are just gambling on that, and I would too until Reed and Mahomes and company can figure it out. Talking about the team who's figured it out in the weirdest way, not weirdest way, but in a kind of weird way, the Washington football team on a 4-game winning streak after starting off 2-6, and the defense playing lights out without Chase Young.
Yeah.
My mind is blown, bro. My mind is blown with this Washington team, and they're on the bubble. They're in the playoff bubble and threatening. What are your thoughts on Washington, Ron Rivera, and my friend Tyler Heineke?
Yeah, like you say, I mean, they were left for dead there, 2-6, right? Yeah, might as well build for next year. They just lost Chase Young. I know they won that game against the Bucs, but you lose your best defensive player. You're thinking, okay, that excitement's kind of gone from that. But yeah, they've reeled off 4 wins, and right now sits 6th in the NFC. And they're only a couple games behind the Cowboys, who they play this week.
Yes, that'll be a big matchup.
So a win there, gets them within 1 game, and all of a sudden now they're in line to maybe win the division after starting off so bad. But yeah, like you say, Taylor Heineke, he's limiting the mistakes. He's doing what he has to do. The running game for Washington is finally going. Antonio Gibson's playing well. The O-line's blocking. And the D has been their main part over this because they have not given up much, which is quite surprising. After losing Chase Young, you thought that D, which was playing bad before that until that Bucs game, was going to crumble without their best player. But yeah, Ron Rivera's got them going. And they're 6-6, and their last 5 games are all divisional. 2 against the Eagles, I believe, 2 against the Cowboys, and then 1 against the Giants. So that division's almost there for the taking if they can put up some more victories.
Yeah, and it looks like their offense is slowly. They'll never be formidable. Don't get me wrong, we're dangerous, but they're slowly turning into something with a personality, a bit of a power running game between the tackles. Take what they can give you. If they got what's his name, 17 deep for a pass, he'll catch it.
He doesn't have to do a lot over the last little bit. Funny thing is, I just noticed their last 2 wins were 17-15, both games. That's funny. It's a weird score.
That is kind of weird, eh? 17-15.
Yeah. Wow.
That is odd.
Blows my mind.
Let's talk about blowing my mind. Lions beat the Vikings and the Steelers. Man, I told you the Steelers are ready to go. I never doubted my Steelers. I'm with them boys. See what Ben did? That was brilliant. He told the team he's going to retire. Now they're going to galvanize around and make a last run like they did with Jerome Bettis. I told you believe. But they beat the Ravens.
Did you say you never stopped believing? Should we replay?
For sure. I never stopped believing, man. I'm playing this for drama. Be quiet. But let's talk about the Vikings and the Ravens. Are these reality check losses for those teams?
Yeah, like we mentioned earlier, Vikes had that big win against Green Bay, followed up with 2 losses. And I think they're going to struggle over the next 5 games here. They got 2 games against the Bears. Yeah. Which after losing to the Lions, those games could go either way.
Exactly. They have a defense too, the Bears. So
before last week, I would have said, oh, that's 2 easy wins. But then they got the Steelers, who we're going to talk about, coming up this Thursday. Short week. Thielen's out, or Thielen may be out. Cook is up in the air as well. Yeah. And then they play Green Bay again, and then the Rams. Oof. So, that's a few tough games in there. And I think Zimmer's run as coach of the Vikings may be coming to an end here if they don't end up making the playoffs. I don't see them making the playoffs anymore at this point. 2 weeks ago, I would have said yes. Yeah. Now I'm going to say no. And I don't think many Viking fans will be sad about Zimmer getting fired. I think they've been waiting and hoping for it for a while.
Absolutely. I think both teams are in the same predicament, Vikings and Ravens. Both teams have bad defenses at this point. Ravens lost another cornerback. Both teams aren't running the ball with confidence because of injury. So I think, yes, it's a reality check. Both teams are not contenders. And they got to look for some changes, personnel-wise for the Ravens, coaching-wise, like you said, for the Vikings.
Yeah, I agree on the Ravens one. And I haven't been sold on them at all really this year. Yes, they've had some big wins, but they've had some close wins against bad teams. And some of their games are a lot closer than they should be. Even last week, Lamar threw 4 interceptions against the Browns. Somehow they ended up pulling out the victory. Yet another one this week. He was sacked 7 times against the Steelers. And did you check out their schedule to finish the season?
Who, Ravens or Steelers?
For the Ravens, it is ridiculous. They got the Packers, they got the Bengals, they got the Rams, Steelers, and the Browns again this Sunday. So those are some tough games, man. They could go from first in the AFC to out of the playoffs.
And they look like they're reeling. So we'll see. Steelers kind of crumbling into the playoffs there. Who knows? Again. Let's go to the segment. Let's go to one of our favorite segments, Ray and Benny versus the coin. Week 1, you're taking care of the stats. How did we do in week 1, bro? Week 1 of Ray and Benny versus the coin.
Yeah, you came back with a victory last night with the Pats beating the Bills.
Yes.
Bill Belichick.
Pats.
Josh McDaniel, great game plan. 3 passes total by Mac Jones.
Run all day, every day.
Yeah. That guy's a genius, man. You
got to believe in the Pats now. I know you back in the day, you said you still don't see them making the playoffs. You got to give the props to them now. I know I went all in with them, so you might not be there yet, but let's give them props. I think they're ready to go.
I'll give them props. They know how to play. They know how to take out an opponent. They know how to play down or not play down. Make the other team almost play down, totally. and fold under pressure, man. I know the wind was crazy, the temperature or the weather was nuts yesterday in that game, but still, they had a great game plan, and then they play them again in, I think, a couple of weeks. So, maybe Mac Jones is going to throw 40 times that game. So,
we'll
in Ray and Benny versus the coin, though.
Yes, sir.
You ended 3-1. Myself ended 3-1. And the coin got back to 500 with the Pats victory last night. So the coin is at 2-2.
Coin sitting at 500. Ray and Benny at 750. So let's look at this week's matchup. First matchup, we talked about this. Ravens versus Browns. Browns a home team. Who are you taking there, brother?
I'm going to take the Browns to get their revenge on the Ravens.
Ooh, I'm with you. I'm taking the Browns. Producer Grammy, what does the coin say? Tails the visitor.
Yeah.
It's already exciting. Let's go to game 2, Bengals against your favorite team, the San Francisco 49ers in San Francisco, or not in San Francisco. What is it now?
Cincinnati. It's in Cincinnati, this one.
Oh, sorry about that. I flipped mine. Cincinnati.
Yeah. This one's painful, but after the Niners stunk against the Sea Hags last week, I'm going to pick the Bengals.
Ooh, we're going to take the Bengals. I will take the 49ers.
Hey, thanks for doing it.
You betcha. I got your back. What does the coin say? What's the coin say, Producer Grimy? Heads for the home team. All right. And now we got Cardinals, Rams, NFC West division matchup. You're also interested in this one. Who do you got?
I'm going to go with the Rams. I know they only played Jacksonville last week, but I think they're finally going to get it together here against one of the better teams. And I don't know yet if Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins are at full 100%, so I'm going to take the Rams.
I'm absolutely with you there. I'm also going to take the Rams. Producer Grammy, what does the coin say? Heads for the home team. Is that the Rams this time?
That is the Rams, yep.
Here we go. I got that right. And for the last game of the week, Bills, Bucks. Is this one in Tampa Bay?
This is in Tampa Bay, yep.
See, I know what's going on. I'll go first this time. I will take the Bucks at home.
I'm going to agree with you and take the Bucks because after watching the Bills play lately, I have no faith in them right now, or not enough faith.
I'm with you. Producer Grammy, what does the coin say? Tails. That is interesting. So, folks, we're going to check in next week see where the results are, see where the competition is for Ray and Benny versus the coin. Let's move on to Brickhead of the Week. This is a new segment we got, and this is in honor of our buddy Kachuk in reference to Brandon Lemieux as a Brickhead. So who do you got as your Brickhead of the Week? Y'all can guess what kind of folks we're giving this one out to. So who do you got for first Brickhead of the Week? The inaugural Brickhead of the Week.
Yeah, we touched on this earlier, with the Leafs. I could have gone, I had a couple options there to pick from, but I'm going to go with Jason Spezza as my Brickhead of the Week for his knee on the head of Neil Pionk. Totally intentional, 6-game suspension. He deserved it. Probably could have, a couple games more wouldn't have been a bad thing either, but Jason Spezza is my winner this week of Brickhead.
Absolutely. I'm going to keep it in Ontario, and I'm going to give the Brickhead of the Week to that stupid Hamilton fan who was abusing players verbally and still under investigation. But there were a lot of witnesses saying he's either spitting on them or throwing beer at them. That's just an embarrassment to Tigers fans, the organization, and even the city of Hamilton. So whoever that fool fan is, you're getting Brickhead of the Week. Let's go to some fun stuff now. We're fast and furious with these segments. We're going to eat that hot dog. Wow. Ray Benny versus a coin, Brickhead of the Week, and now eat that hot dog. Who do you got? Oh, I guess I go first.
You take this one.
My first hot dog is going out to Blake Wheeler of the Winnipeg Jets for playing his 1,000th game and also for putting out 5 assists in the past 2 games. Blake Wheeler, you get a hot dog.
Yeah, mine's going to go out to those 31,000 plus fans that showed up at IG Field on Sunday. Braved the conditions. That win was nasty.
Yes.
That first half was nasty, but we were all dancing by the end of the game. So shout out to all those fans who braved the temperature. You know what? I'll even include the Saskatchewan fans that were in that stadium as well. You guys were right there in that frigid temperatures, but we got the victory. So hot dog out to all you fans who showed up there that Sunday.
We going to the Great Cup, baby. Heck yeah. I got another hot dog to give to the Westgate Wings varsity boys V-ball team who won the provincial title. Producer Grammy, you know about V-ball. They are a AAA school that decided to play 4A V-ball, and they went 30 and 0 for the perfect season. So hot dogs for all of you Westgate Wings varsity boys team. And a special shout out to the Rising Star Foundation. They're currently in week 10 of a track and field program. They're an amazing organization that provides educational and athletic opportunities to underserved communities. This is a foundation created by Wilfred Sam King and Alahi Mansouri. So shout out to them. Go visit them at risingstarmb.com. Help them out, donate, raise some awareness. Anything to say to the people going into Grey Cup week, Benny?
I think all we got to say right now is go Bombers, go. Bring home that championship to win it back to Winnipeg again, back to back, hopefully. And next week, hopefully we're in a joyous mood for our next podcast.
You betcha. You betcha. And I'm going to steal a quote and make it my own from Jim Fossil. I'm raising the ante. Anybody wants in, get in. Anybody wants out, get out. The Blue Bombers are winning the Grey Cup. Let's go, buddy. Blue.
Let's go.
Hey, friends and neighbors, don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter, both at Ray Benny Sports. Follow us, like us, send us some comments, tell us what you think.